Hello America, this is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is April 23rd, 2016. I have an article here from DC Clothesline titled, Why is the Federal Government Installing Mysterious Boxes on Utility Poles? Dated April 23rd, 2016 by Derek Brose. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives has claimed ownership of a mysterious box that was removed from a utility pole in Phoenix, Arizona. Here's the box. Before we go any further, I would like to go to a video that I did on February 14th, 2016 titled, Was LaVoy Killed for Exposing the NGO Power Grid? And I'd like to show you a snippet of that.
Rick. I, for one, am sick of being spied on. This is a great day for me personally. Oh, man. That's all we need to do. Job's done. Let's go get the other one.
All right. They're just sitting there with magnets and plugged in. It's a magnet base and plugs. It is directional. I'm sure that they can just replace this and put it back to working.
Yep. Well, we'll take it down again.
Take it down again.
We'll take it down again. We're here for the long haul. All right. I'll bet you we can go down there and circle around, and whoever's leading out, tell me where to go next.
Okay, so you have that there. Now I'm going to go a step further and show you a video of a little bit more that he did. He actually gave serial numbers out that were on those video cameras to the reporters there.
Would you like to come and get these numbers here and trace them down, sir? You're part of the press. Get your job done. Let's do it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so he gives the press the numbers so they can trace it down and take care of that. So when you look at that video, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're probably the same type of boxes, and more than likely they're doing the same job, which is surveillance. So keeping that in mind, let's go back to this article here. Phoenix resident Brian Clegg was concerned about a box he witnessed being installed on a power pole. Clegg said the box was facing his house and he believed it may have had cameras inside. The pole was owned by Arizona's largest power provider, SRP, who claimed no one had permission to put the box on their pole. Brian Clegg says shortly afterwards, SRP sent a crew to remove the box. Shortly after, ABC 15 investigated the matter. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, ATF, a branch of the U.S. Department of Justice, acknowledged installing the box as part of an ongoing investigation. Officials with the ATF would not provide details about their alleged investigation and would not confirm if they were conducting surveillance in the area. I don't feel safer, said Brian Clegg. I feel that my privacy has been violated. SRP told ABC 15 they were unaware the box had been installed and that the ATF has to notify them if they are going to install something on their property. The ATF told ABC 15 that they can put security measures in place without asking for permission. So here we have the ATF having boxes installed that have surveillance cameras anywhere they darn well please on private property or commercial property. That's a pretty damning thing there, wouldn't you say? So let's continue. One other interesting aspect of Clegg's story is the fact that he claims the crew who installed the box came in a truck marked Field Pros. The thought of undercover government agents installing surveillance equipment while masquerading as utility workers is highly disturbing and sounds like a scene right out of a Hollywood film. Unfortunately, Phoenix is not the only city to have surveillance equipment installed by an agency of the federal government. Now, I have to tell you something that happened to me personally, which is really insane. but it happened. Okay, it was during the Baltimore riots. I was on the phone with someone that was actually watching the news and trying to follow the Baltimore riots. When I had called, they said that there was a breaking story on the news and that I believe it was live footage being shot of some political people in Baltimore that were being interviewed about the Baltimore riots. I'm not sure if it was the governor or who exactly it was that was being interviewed, but it was at least 2 or 3 government officials being interviewed in reference to the Baltimore riots. Well, the person that I was talking on the phone to was, watching this interview while we were on the phone, and the person on the phone said to me, "Oh my gosh, one of the political people that were being interviewed at the time received a message during the interview and took off running for their vehicle. And they said that it was in reference to a shooting that took place." Okay? So I said, "Well, I'll let you watch that. I have to go run an errand." So I go run my errand. I end up in a commercial building, and I believe it may have been after hours or on the weekend. For some reason, the door was open. I went in. I had startled someone that was working in an office. They came out and said, "Oh, you startled me." And I apologized. And they were obviously shaken. And they said to me, "I just witnessed a shooting." I said, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Well, they went on to explain to me that their business is a surveillance business. The person told me that they actually, and I'm in Virginia, mind you, I was in a building in Virginia. They went on to tell me that their business surveils cameras that are located in low-income housing projects in the Baltimore and Washington area, Washington, D.C., that is. And my first reaction to that was, well, we are in Virginia. Why are you looking at surveillance cameras in Maryland and Washington, D.C.? They said, "Well, I have to testify in court when I witness things, and I just witnessed a shooting. I witnessed a person, I believe it was a teenager or a young person, being shot, and the person with the gun followed the teenager or young person into their home, and then it was reported that their mother was shot by this person with the gun." Well, I obviously had just gotten off the phone with a person who had told me about this shooting that happened in Baltimore, and I was floored. I was in shock. I then went on to take a peek because I couldn't believe what was going on. I went on and peeked around their shoulder into their office, and sure enough, they had like 9 monitors on a rack at a desk behind it, with a computer hooked up to it. And I confirmed in my mind that yes, that is exactly what they were doing. And they went on to tell me that the reason that they surveil from Virginia into Baltimore and Washington, D.C. is for anonymity purposes. So people will more than likely not be able to identify them when they have to testify in court against individuals that they witness doing whatever they are doing. They are a private company, and that it was a woman I was talking to that her and her husband own it. So I thought I would add that in because to me it was amazing. So getting back to this article here, in November 2013, Seattle residents pushed back against the installation of several mesh network modes attached to utility poles around the downtown area. The nodes were purchased by the Seattle Police Department via a $2.7 million grant from the Department of Homeland Security. The American Civil Liberties Union of Washington and privacy advocates were immediately concerned about the ability of the nodes to gather user information via the Wi-Fi connection. How accurately can it geolocate and track the movements of your phone, laptop, or any other wireless device by its MAC address? Can the network send information to a database, allowing the SPD to reconnect who was where at any given time and any given day without a warrant? Can the network see you now? Asked the Seattle newspaper The Stranger. Initially, the Seattle PD were reluctant to speak about the network. However, the police ultimately yielded to the public opinion and decided the wireless mesh network will be deactivated until City Council approves a draft policy and until there's an opportunity for vigorous public debate. Although the situation in Seattle played out in favor of the people, we must recognize that there is a growing partnership between the surveillance agencies of the federal government and the increasingly militarized local police forces in the United States. As Activist Post previously reported, a new policy from the Obama administration will make it easier for the NSA to share information between law enforcement agencies with very little oversight. And according to the New York Times here, the Obama administration is on the verge of permitting the National Security Agency to share more of the private communications it intercepts with other American intelligence agencies without first applying for any privacy protections to them, according to officials familiar with the deliberations. The new rule changes would allow federal agencies such as the FBI to access streams of information gathered by the spy agency, including emails, phone calls, and location data. These federal agencies would then have the ability to pass the data to state and local law enforcement. And then I did a video on the ATF Enforcement Act Introduced. And it may not have a lot to do with it, but there was something I found interesting in this bill, and let's have a look at it. Number 2 is the elimination of Senate confirmation requirement for the appointment of the director of the ATF. That's kind of like setting up a shadow government. And we'll move on down here to Number 10, elimination of prohibition on the transfer of the functions, missions, or activities of the ATF to other agencies or departments. So they want the ATF to be able to transfer everything that they find by spying to other agencies. So let's wrap this up in a bow here. You have the federal government installing mysterious boxes, utility boxes. A man complains about it. You have LaVoy here, exposed the power grid in this video I did. This man exposed the power grid. Okay? A local news company in his area did an investigation on it. They had found something very frightening that pretty much the ATF said, we can put this box anywhere we darn well please, whether it be on your property or anyone else's property. We can do that if we so choose. And then you have small, I'd say mom and pop companies, because that's who I spoke with, small companies that they are using to subcontract to get the boxes installed, I believe on the poles, to surveil the cameras and go to court if needed and take care of all the recording issues. And then you have these draconian bills being passed and being introduced in Congress to, I believe, set up a shadow government, a shadow spying government. So, with all that in mind, this is Call of Duty Goddess signing off, and as always, I'll leave the links below and I've got your 6.